I think we're live. Hey, how's it going, everybody? What's happening? What's going on? Dan Shinder here on Drum Talk TV with the Drumming Injury Talk with Dr. Nadia Azar and Sasha, my 5-month-old Shepsky puppy. Come here, mister. So I may have to get up and let him out. We'll see how this goes. But Nadia, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
How you doing?
I'm great. And folks, this show is for you to learn and share stories about any sort of drumming related injuries, which are really, Nadia, they're basically like any other repetitive motion injury other than maybe some other elements like impact, vibrational things, and or bad ergonomics, things like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, drumming injuries can stem from repetitive use, but also from awkward postures or static postures or even vibration. So basically any of the sort of work-related musculoskeletal injuries that you hear about in industrial settings, a lot of them also can happen through drumming.
And folks, if you have any of these afflictions, an earache listening to your lead singer go on about how great they are, that's not considered drumming related, even if you're playing while that happens. But anything else, tendinitis, carpal tunnel, arthritis, bursitis, joint pain, things like displaced stuff in your hips, lower back, upper back. What am I missing, Nadia? Anything like that, comment in the comments. I'll be relaying questions and stories to Nadia so she can chime in on them. But did I miss anything in that? I'm sure I did. There's so many possibilities.
Did you say anything about the wrists? I see a lot of stuff in the wrists, the elbows, shoulders.
Yeah.
Those are the big ones.
Have you ever heard, and folks, for those of you who don't know, Nadia has done some very extensive studies on drumming-related injuries through the University of Windsor. She's a professor of kinesiology there, even though she only looks 24 years old. That's pretty amazing. Have you ever had like neck injuries related to bad posture or anything like that, or bad ergonomics?
So in the big survey study that I did, we had over 800 drummers from all over the world respond to a survey about, what kinds of injuries have they had through drumming. And neck injuries, so they did come up, but I was surprised that it wasn't more. I don't have it in front of me, but I think it was only about 10% of the respondents said they'd had a neck injury. And I was expecting it to be higher than that. But the upper limb came out as the biggest culprit. It was like almost 60% of the survey respondents said they'd had an injury in the upper
Now that's
arm.
interesting. Was it both arms or more one arm or the other? And if it was one or the other, was it relevant to whether or not they were right or left-handed drummers? Do you know?
You know what? I haven't dug that deep into it yet.
I think that'd be interesting to know.
Yeah.
Because then I think it comes down to either ergonomics or impact injury or ergonomics.
So, what's an interesting one? I did do, and this was a couple years ago now, but I did take a look at, because I had asked people, do you play open-handed, hi-hat, snare pattern, or do you play closed-handed?
Oh, and that's another, yeah.
And there was, and again, I'm reaching back into my memory from a few years ago now, but there was an association that more people, and maybe it's just because more people play closed-handed than open-handed, but more people who played closed-handed reported injuries than those who play open-handed. But I don't have specific numbers, and that hasn't been peer-reviewed, so don't hold me too much to that. But it was an interesting trend and something that I was curious about because of the crossover and just the postures associated with that. So that's something I want to look into more.
You mentioned posture, and I was talking to someone the other day. I don't even remember exactly the topic. You know what? It was my drum student, one of my drum students. And I was explaining how my setup is so different than it was 42 years ago or whatever, when I was like 17, 16, 15. Everything was so much higher. I sat much, much higher. Now I sit so that my femurs are almost parallel with the floor. They're almost straight out from my hips. Whereas before, they're probably about like this. Whereas now they're about like this. And everything's much lower. And I showed him a picture that I actually have right. Let's see if I can. Right there. where everything, my toms were so high, and I can't believe I used to play like that. And so I'm very aware when I watch other drummers, especially my biggest influences, the way they sit. Phil Collins, I think, has one of the most awkward positions when he used to play. He's very hunched over and like this. Like, no wonder he's so jacked up now. It was such an awkward, it was literally about like this. His head was here and then his back went like that. It just looked so uncomfortable. But he was able to do what he did. How much has posture been related to certain types of injuries? Is it more related to upper back, lower back, and hips, or could it affect upper limb and other things?
It certainly can affect upper limb and other things, because the issue with posture is the positioning. Well, a few things. One is, depending on how you're positioned, your tendons can rub against different bony surfaces, and that can cause inflammation. So a lot of people get bicep tendinitis, so the tendons for your bicep muscles, because the way they attach to your shoulder area, if your posture, if you're hunched forward, or if you spend a lot of time with your arms like this, it pinches between the bones, like your scapula bones and your upper limb and stuff like that. And it causes friction, which causes inflammation. The other thing is, depending on the posture you're in, if you're overstretching, it creates force. It puts force through those tendons, and it puts more strain on them. And so that can cause problems over time too.
I would think it also would require more muscle recovery as well.
Yeah, certainly, getting into different postures requires muscular effort, and to hold it there takes effort. The more sort of neutral, the closer you are to your body's sort of natural position, that's where it was kind of designed to be. Now, we're designed to move, but we do also have to be aware of not being out in the extremes of posture, causing those problems.
Right. And one of the things we've talked about, and folks, if I look over here, I'm not watching the hockey draft. I'm looking at the show so I can relay comments.
Is that today?
No, I just made that up.
Oh. I think it's coming.
Folks, let us know where you are watching from. I'm in Globe, Arizona, 100 miles east of Phoenix. And Nadia is near Windsor, which was really cool to see her and her husband and the kids in that protest in Ottawa on TV news, like the first drumming family to ever be in that sort of blockade situation.
No, that didn't.
But you're right there,
news,
right?
Dan. That's fake news.
That was fake news about fake news. Yeah, you're right there, though, right?
So actually, my office and my lab is like right around the corner from the entrance to the Ambassador Bridge. So all last week, our street was blocked off because we also have a fire hall right across the street from us. So the police had to block access to our block because they had to make sure that fire trucks could, respond to calls. So, but I was actually away last week, so I wasn't too impacted by it. But that's all been, well, I'm not sure if it's all been taken care of, but the bridge is open, I think, to some traffic, like commercial traffic. But yeah, I believe all the protesters have left at this point.
Crazy. Folks, tell us where you're watching from and share this with any other fellow drummers, because there's a lot of great information here. And you mentioned something, and that is reach. I still have these two pieces I just can't seem to get closer to me. And they're the only pieces that I really feel like, that's out of the way. And I just can't see. And this is on my larger kit, folks. If you've ever seen Dan's Almost Daily Vlog, and I've got the big blue kit. This is the stacker and the 14-inch China I have right there. That's what I'm doing. So I literally have to reach about like that, plus the length of the stick. And everything else there's a lot of other stuff, but it's literally within arm's length. I don't have to strain whatsoever. Just for those two pieces, I just can't seem to. So I know you drummers love to set up for looks sometimes, and that badass heavy metal kit with the China's way up there or the crash is way down. And you really might want to start rethinking that just to stay healthier, especially as you get older, things change and you don't want to have to reach as far. Believe me, I know. I'm turning the meter again in a few weeks, and I'm being more and more conscious about stuff like that. So let's talk about that. Well, maybe we don't want to call someone out. Describe the kit, I guess, or the most ridiculous reach for something you've ever seen in terms of how many meters or feet was it from their shoulder that they might have had to reach for something. And I know we all have different physiology. I'm not a big guy. Some people are much taller. They have much longer arms. I'm very medium to small. I'm like 5'8". Well, I used to be when I had hair and before the kids. Now I'm like 5'4". No, I'm like 5'7" probably. My arms are normal for my height, but even if someone's taller and has longer arms, there's still a limit to what you really should do with all this nonsense, right? So what have you seen that just made you go, oh boy?
Yeah, I have seen, and I'm not going to name names, but I have seen some setups that made me think like, ooh, how are their shoulders faring after a tour on that? Because they were, things were way up high. And so I was actually able to, this person did address that actually in an interview. And they said it also had to do with sound bleeding into the microphones. So they keep the cymbals up higher so that it's not affecting other things.
Interesting.
Which makes sense, but
it does. But I think enough people don't do that to say, I think you need a better sound person or different mics. If so many other people can get away with, but if they're playing live and that's why they're doing it, if so many other drummers can get away with not doing that, there must be another factor. And I think it's the mics and or the person working the controls. I really do.
Yeah, and I don't know, because this was a couple years ago and I didn't actually speak to this person about it. But yeah, so those concern me just because of the enormous reach and the force and the speed with which you're hitting. Because usually it's the cymbals that are up there, and those are generally you're hitting them hard.
Right. So, sorry, you keep going. I'm going to throw my dog outside. I'm sorry, folks.
It's okay. So having things that far away and reaching, straining your tissues with that big of a reach and that much force into the movement is a bit concerning. So bringing them in a little bit closer would help with those things. But that said, Dan mentioned he has just those two items that were farther away. And if they're things that you're not using, oh, you're back. Okay. So I was getting into your two pieces that you said, you have two pieces that you haven't been able to bring in close, but I'm guessing they're not things that you use often.
Correct.
Like they're more accent pieces that you hit, maybe once or twice in a song, every other song. So that, a little bit is, I don't want to say it's fine, but it's a lot less risky than, say, having your ride all the way out there.
Constantly doing that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Or the crashes or chinas that you tend to use more often. You want to keep the stuff that you're using most often within that reach envelope. If you have a few things that are farther away, but you're only using them a few times in a session or a show, then it's a lot less of an issue. So it's still not ideal, but it's not as big of a deal.
Right. I think it's also important to point out and talk about the fact that these types of injuries are not just for older farts like me and older. Like I know we've talked a lot about I've had arthritis for a few years, and you spoke with Carmine and Vinny, and you've spoken to much younger players as well. Casey Grillo, Mike Mangini, Tim from Brain
Primus.
Fart. Yeah. And it's not an age thing necessarily. Now, certainly the older you get, possibly the more at risk you are because of just the way our bodies change and all of that. But this is something that younger and even younger players in their teens and early 20s really need to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because wear and tear is cumulative. I mean, these are called cumulative trauma injuries for a reason. And it's because it accumulates over time. And so, the young 20-year-old drummer who's out on tour with his cymbals out here, it's like, well, it's fine. It doesn't bother me at all. And it's like, not yet.
Right.
It doesn't bother you yet. And it may never, like you said, everybody is a little bit different. Yeah. So, there are guidelines, not hard and fast rules. But in general, you know, over time, the more strain you're putting on your tissues, the more you're increasing your likelihood of having an injury develop.
Exactly. I'm going to read some comments. So Brian Cooper's in Mount Laurel. I used to do a lot of audio work at NFL Films when they were in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Nice. Thanks for chiming in. And Eric Stanley in North Idaho has a question. Would a backrest help with the lower back pain? And after you answer that, I want to chime in on the whole backrest thing for drum thrones.
Yeah, so from a research standpoint, I haven't done any work on that. So I mean, yes, it could help support your back a little more if that's a problem. What I would say to that is that that's not addressing the problem, though. That's addressing the symptom.
It's a Band-Aid.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like, you have a headache, you take a Tylenol, but why do you have a headache? Is it because you're dehydrated? Is it because you're hungover? Is it, because you have a brain tumor? You need to address the cause.
Maybe you're just married. Oh, just kidding.
So if there's back pain while you're playing, then there's probably something else happening that's causing that. So maybe you need to look at things like raising or lowering your throne, or moving the position of your pedals, or bringing things in closer. Maybe you need to do some core muscle exercises to strengthen your abs and your back muscles to support the rest of your body. So yeah, I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with using a backrest, but I would also want to dive deeper into why the back pain is happening in the first place and see if there's anything that can be done about that.
Right. And on that backrest issue, and again, I'm not criticizing folks. I'm just saying for me, and drums is the one thing where we all set up differently. Even if it's a simple 4-piece kit, and even by a few inches, we set up differently. You get a guitar, the strings are all in the same place. You get a saxophone, the valves are all in the same place. You sit at a piano, the keys are on the same place, whether it's my piano, Nadia's piano, her husband's piano, my dog's piano, whatever. But drums are just so different, which means we have the latitude to change things. But the whole backrest thing, I've never understood that. I can't imagine having to lean back to make sure that there's a backrest against me. And I sat at a friend's kit who is a bigger guy than I am, and he has a backrest, and it was like, get that thing out of there. That's really annoying. Like, it bothered me. It felt like someone was going like that from time to time. So try it out, but be aware that if it doesn't feel comfortable, because I move when I play, even on my little jazz kit, I can't imagine having to be conscious enough to make sure I sit back and sit straight up. Now you've got this our brains are doing enough as drummers and multitasking and creating rhythms and patterns with all 4 limbs if we have them, and different things like that. Now I got to think about making sure I lean against the thing. I think, as Nadia said, find out what's causing it. Try the backrest, but find out what's causing it as well. And for someone who does use a backrest and they're happy with it, I'd love to get your input. Not that I'm looking for someone to change my mind, but to just be other information for other people. Because I'm not saying do it my way. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying what works for me. And I've never thought like, oh, without that thing, I might fall backwards off the thing. That's happened once, but that's another story.
Yeah, exactly. What works for some people doesn't work for others. So yeah, the backrest might not work for you, Dan, but who was it? Eric. He might try it and find like, what, it's just a really good reminder to sit up straight, or a rest in between songs or something like that. You might really like it. So it's worth trying. But yeah, I would definitely want to dive deeper into why the back pain is happening, because there may be other things that you can do that will mean you don't need the backrest.
Right. This is interesting. There's a few people in New Jersey, like New Jersey's taking over the show right now. Barry Parker, Winchester, Virginia, Shenandoah University Department of Exercise and Science. That's interesting.
Awesome.
Barry, I'm curious, if you're a drummer, have you applied what you've learned at university, or do you teach there? Have you applied that to what we're talking about, your drumming? I would love to know. And anybody, if you have any of these conditions, chime in with, yes, I have this, and feel free to ask a question, or I had this, and this is what I did to correct it, or I've never had anything. And if so, is it because your set is just more ergonomically friendly for you? Do you know why you haven't acquired any drumming related injuries? All of these are fair topics to throw in the comments there, not just on the live, but even afterwards. Nadia and I look back on these for a few days. We'd love to know. Be part of the show. Let us know. Let's actually have a conversation. We're not here to just yell at you about me yell at you, and Nadia talk to you about this stuff. Now, while we're waiting for some comments, how's your drumming coming along?
Not yet.
Dun,
Not
dun,
yet.
dun. You haven't gotten back to it?
I know. No, I haven't. I have a sabbatical coming up. So as of July 1st, I'm on sabbatical, which means I'm relieved of my teaching and service duties for the year. And I plan for the year. Yeah.
Wow, I want that job.
We get to do this once every 6 years. Yeah. Well, it's so that I can do more research and professional
do it at
development.
the drums. Do it on this.
Well, that's the professional development is the drums. Here I am, talking about this. So I do want to get back to it. I am planning on taking lessons again, starting probably sometime in May or June.
So for those of you who don't know, Nadia's husband's name is Dory, and he's a really great drummer. Do you ever set up together and play together? Or
no, because we don't have. I would love to, but we don't have. I'd have to bring my lab drum set home, and
you're not going to be there.
No, but we're in the lab now. We've got studies going on. We're bringing people
on your
in.
sabbatical.
Well, no, that's what I'm going to be doing is bringing more people into the lab. So I can't bring it home. Well, I guess I could, but I don't want to because my lab's on the second floor. From ground level, our first floor is actually up a story, and then our second floor is another. So it's really like 3 stories up. So I don't really want to be lugging here regularly. That'd be fun though.
A senior moment. What's Dory's brother's name? Your brother-in-law?
Jeff.
Have Jeff bring his kid over.
Yeah, Jeff does have multiple drums. I think he's got at least 2 drum sets. I should ask him to borrow one.
Yeah, it's so fun to play with another drummer. I have a 15-year-old student, and right now we are working out. I can't wait to get this down and put it on Drum Talk TV. We are working out the live version of Los Endos from Genesis's Live Over Europe album from 2007, and we are having so much fun because it's a double drummer thing, and we're just having a blast. So it's really a lot of fun, I think, playing with either being a percussionist, playing with a drum set player, or being a drum set player and playing with a percussionist, or 2 percussionists or 2 drum set. It's a lot of fun. It is.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that does sound like fun.
Let's see. We've got Barry Barker chiming in, the one faking his way over at the... No, just kidding. So Barry says, novice drummer at 50 years old. Nice. Chair of exercise science, I guess that is.
Exercise science, yeah.
And researcher in performing arts medicine. How cool.
So I think I actually belong to his Facebook group.
Oh, really?
It's I'm pretty sure I do, and I can't remember the name of it. It's a special interest group. Drop the name in the comments, Barry. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I belong to that.
Feel free to do that. Maybe we could have you on as a guest with Nadia and I sometime. And Danny Livesey says, or Livesey, hope I'm pronouncing your name right, sir. I get the first name right. I know that. He says, North Hampshire, England. Does anyone else get occasional crampy hand locking in certain positions? It moved. Certain positions or hip pains whilst in bed. I could chime into that first, and then I'd love to hear from the people watching a reply to his comments so I can read them, and for Nadia to chime in on what she's come across. Now, I've mentioned before, and this is kind of going away for me, but my 2 ring fingers have like what my doctor refers to as trigger finger, where they get, I won't do it with the ones that do it, but they get locked in this position slightly. It doesn't happen a lot when I play, but it used to happen a lot after I play. And he said it was from nodules developing on the tendon. And he gave me some stuff that I don't have handy because it's in my bathroom and I've hardly had to use it for like the last 9 months. But for the first 4 to 6 months, it's a gel. Man, what is it? Voltaren. Voltaren. It used to be prescription. Now in the US, it's over the counter. It's like $20 or something at Walmart. And it helped, and it helps so much. Now it hardly happens. And now I rarely even use it. So I don't know if that's what you're referring to. I think cramping obviously can come from dehydration. Nadia, it could also come from bad ergonomics, correct? And not stretching, just bad conditioning or lack of?
Yeah, I mean the cramping muscles is just like that could be a fatigue thing. It could be a dehydration. It could, yeah, just overuse. But cramping hands and locking in positions, that's exactly what I was going to say, was the trigger finger or like joint stiffness. Yeah, the Voltaren gel is like an anti-inflammatory, so that would probably help with some of the inflammation and maybe making the movement a little more fluid. But yeah, the trigger finger certainly is something that can happen. And you're right, the nodules developing on the tendons, that is what causes it, because you have like the long tendons, but then there's other connective tissue that goes in the other direction. And if the nodule gets caught, it'd be like getting it caught under your ring. Like if the nodule gets caught, it's really hard to, get it back open. That nodule's got to pass through that tunnel.
I don't have my rings on. I wonder where they are. Sorry. Yeah, just the thought of something getting caught under a ring. And also the other part of the question was hip pains whilst in bed. I've only ever given someone else hip pains whilst in bed. Okay, moving on. We have Brian Cooper says, I've had 9 fingers operated on for trigger finger, even played one-handed with the stitches in. What a trooper.
Ouch.
I use that gel for my arthritic thumb. MCP, I don't know what that is. Do you know? Is that a medical term, Nadia?
Yes, it's, I'm drawing a blank on.
Go ahead and put that in, Brian.
MCP. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on the acronym now, but it's one of the joints in your thumb.
I'm
going to look it up because now it's bothering me.
Very interesting. So I'm wondering if the hip pains are, if Danny, if you think those hip pains are related to drumming, do you think like after you play a gig or something and later that night, or is it just a general hip pain question that happens to be while you're in bed? And the only reason I brought up after a gig and stuff is because maybe at night it just become more sore or the pain rises to the surface or something. I'm real curious a little bit more about the comment. Did you find what that means?
I did, yeah. I knew I had to just look up the words. Metacarpophalangeal joint. So it's this joint right here.
Great.
Yeah.
What'd you do to your finger?
Oh, just dry skin.
Oh, okay.
Cracking. Yeah.
I had
nothing major.
A swollen joint there because I busted my knuckle on the far right of my kid. I have a big China symbol, a Wuhan that's flat, and the edge is really sharp. And sometimes I'll go for it, and the stick will eventually hit it, but my knuckle hits it first or something. Yeah, it's happened like 3 times. I got to change that position by half an inch in one direction or the other because I'm sure my motion's been the same, but now I'm just like, it's like going right into a knife or a saw. It's extremely painful. And being that I'm diabetic now, the slightest little boo-boo, like my hands have all these tiny little scars now because everything takes longer to heal and it inflames more when I get an open cut like that. It's a real pain. No pun intended. Yeah, gets aggravated easily, and then I bump it on something and hurts. Brian Cooper says, okay, so I'll get back to you, Eric Stanley. Brian Cooper says, we chatted about my thumb. Oh, yeah, the last time I tuned in with you and Nadia. I remember now. And he's 65. Cool, I'm right behind you. Eric Stanley says, I'm in my 20s. I didn't know they let kids watch this show. Just kidding. Get it? Just kidding. Eric says, I'm in my 20s. With something
You're
so far
awfully
away.
spicy today, Dan.
Oh, I don't even drink coffee. In my 20s was something so far away. Now in my 50s, everything can be reached with elbows within a couple inches from my body. So he adjusted like I did. How interesting with age. Helped with elbow and shoulder pain. He's 6'3" and always try to keep thighs close to parallel to the ground, like I'm doing now. Bulging L4, L5, ruptured S1. Frustrating. Wow, it sure sounds like it. I do yoga and gym 5 days a week for strength and mobility, but after an hour of playing, I walk with a cane. Long explanation. Sorry. No, that's totally fine. This is what we want.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if the 5 days a week is too much, if you should be doing a day on with yoga, a day on at the gym, a day off, a day, kind of alternate and leave some space in between for recovery. Could that be affecting his condition at all, Nadia?
Yeah, I mean, when you've got something like, I have to imagine that with something like a bulging L4, L5 and a ruptured S1, those L4, L5 and S1 refer to the place in the spine, where it is, that he's probably seen a medical team at this point, a physiotherapist. And I would definitely work closely with them, because you can overdo it. But I mean, again, gym 5 days a week. I don't know what he's doing in the gym.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say like that's too much. It might be just right. But bulging and ruptured discs are big time things. And so, after an hour of playing, having that kind of stress on your back, I'm not sure. That's a tough one to say. Like, will ever not walk off stage with a cane again, kind of thing. Right. But definitely working close with the medical team on something like that, because they can help guide, the recovery and the amount of work that you're doing. It is important to do, so you only see a physiotherapist maybe 2 or 3 times a week. It is important to do exercises in between, but you can overdo it. And so you do have to watch out for that. But Eric, I hope you're seeing a professional about that, who can guide you through the, managing that and hopefully recovering as much as possible from that.
Yeah, I empathize with that, Eric, because when I was, I think 35, something like that, I'm about to turn 59. When I was 35, I sneezed and blew 2 of my discs, one of them much worse than the other. And I walked with a cane to get anywhere to the bathroom. I walked with a cane for about 3 months. And then off and on, my sciatica was so affected somehow by all of that often it would literally be paralyzing. And if I made the mistake of bending over even slightly to get something out of the trunk of my car, I'd get stuck in that position. So painful. So I really hope you find a solution for that, because it is very debilitating. It was really weighed on me emotionally, because here I was 33, 35, extremely fit, yet I felt like I didn't expect to feel like this till I was 90. God willing, I lived that long. It was like, what is this all about? So I was in really great condition when that happened. And sometimes that can't even prevent something like that. And like I said, it was a big sneeze and I literally got stuck bent over. It was really bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, physical conditioning is really important it certainly helps, hold injuries at bay, but it's only part of the equation. You can be as fit as you can be, but if you have a job with a lot of heavy lifting or a lot of,
like
whatever,
drumming.
you can still get an injury if the demands that you're putting on those muscles or those tissues, whatever it is exceeding their capacity to handle it. And sometimes, depending on the demands, physical training is not enough to raise the capacity to the point where it can offset an injury like that. So what was your job like? What were you doing leading up to that injury happening? Because usually when we hear something like that, when we hear of somebody like, I bent over to pick up a pencil and I blew out my back, it's like, it's usually because they've been doing, repetitive lifting for years and it's worn the disc down to the point where all it took was a sneeze or something.
So at the time I was, let me just get the time context. I was either selling carpeting and flooring, and I lifted, like I had some sample stuff, like carpet samples are almost in panels that you carry like a briefcase, only they're a little bigger. Flooring samples are on like a flat panel, your different swatches. I either had that job or I was the national sales manager for a company that sold audio video gear and Pelican cases and things. And there was some lifting, but not a lot. I had kids. I had my 4 kids, and Stephen, who's watching, our associate producer, if I was 35, he would have only been like 2 or something. And Steve was a little chunky back then. He's not chunky anymore, but he's about 6 feet, and Alex would have been 6. And then I had the girls that were 8 and 10. And so there was that kind of lifting going on. Maybe that had something to do with it.
Yeah.
I had been lifting kids for a few years.
That can absolutely do it. It doesn't have to be, these kinds of injuries don't solely come from work. They can certainly come from home related activities if you're doing them often, and having 4 kids and 4 young kids that you're lifting up a lot. Yeah. That could certainly have had, especially I'm thinking, I have 2 kids, they're older now too, but, I'm thinking about like bending over, when you're giving them a bath and all that kind of things.
Changing diapers and
yeah, like all the awkward positions, and then you're lifting them. It puts a lot of strain on your back. Yeah. So
interesting. That could have played into it. I wonder if it has for Eric as well. Eric Stanley says, loading equipment 5-6 days a week and working at the post office when I heard it first. That certainly could have played into all of that. And Brian Cooper says, playing bass is what ruined me. Because you couldn't pull any chicks as a bass player, or no, different topic. Back pain. Just kidding. Back pain and aggravated the arthritis in my thumb. Death grip on the neck. Wow, I never thought of that. That makes perfect sense. Just like some drummers who I think grip too hard, they're going to have more impact pain. If you're right-handed, you're playing match grip and you hold real hard and you hit real hard, there's just more shock to go through you, rather than if you're playing looser and using your fingers more than just real tight grips. I could totally understand the death grip on a bass neck. Wow. Especially if it's like a 10-string bass with a thicker neck. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, holding that pressure for that long, that's putting a lot of strain through there.
Interesting. Who has any more questions before we go? Any more questions, stories, suggestions, donations, accusations, anything? We'll take it all. What do you got? We'll watch the comments for another minute, see if anyone has questions or stories they want to share. And then if not, we'll go and we'll be doing this every month, probably almost every month the rest of the year. We're just getting going February 2022. And it's always a little bit different. There's always different people chiming in with their stories. So there's always something to learn from Nadia's feedback on not mine, but on Nadia's feedback on people's different situations. So you can learn even if you come just to listen and see what people are chiming in with and get the feedback. Do you have any new studies planned? You mentioned that you're going to be bringing a lot of people into the lab where you have the kit at the university at your office. What's happening? Anything new or more digging deeper or extending current studies? What's happening?
So a few things. So I think we've talked about the study we were doing looking at vibration in drummers while they're playing. So that my student who was working on that, he's finishing up his portion of the project, but because of all the COVID restrictions and all that, so we're actually like a year behind on that project because of all of that. But anyway, he collected data on 6 people, but I want to get like 20. So over the next year, I'm going to be continuing that to get more data on more people. And then my other student is just getting started. I'm leaving here after we're done to go to the lab because we have someone coming in today. Nice. Where we're hooking them up with electrodes to monitor the electrical activity of their muscles while they're playing.
Ooh, neat.
Yeah, it's super fun. And so we're looking for a particular pattern in their muscle activation that it's been documented in athletes that do a lot of like ballistic movements, like kicking and punching. So in MMA fighters, baseball pitchers, golfers, and it's believed to be part of a pattern to efficiently increase the force of impact. And so I wanted to, for years now, I've wanted to do this study on drummers to see if they do that when they crash. And we've now collected on one person, and we did actually see it. So really? Super exciting. Yeah.
I'd love to see how the results differ based on how they play and things like that. Is there a way that people in your area can get a hold of you to be a part of the study so you have more subjects?
Absolutely. Yeah, if you're in the Windsor area,
And
you
Steve,
can
put this
reach.
in the comments or the actual post when we're done. Go ahead, Nadia. I want to give him a heads up.
Yeah, no, you can reach out to me through email is probably the easiest way. My email at the university is my last name, Azar, so Azar, the number 5 at uwindsor.ca. Yeah, we are looking for this particular study, we're looking for drummers who are like highly skilled, so professionally established, whether that's touring or session studio, that sort of thing, who we're particularly targeting rock and metal drummers for this one because we want people who, we're looking at big crashes. And so we need people who typically, their music is heavy on that. So they're more likely to have developed this pattern because they would be needing to use it more often.
And give people, Nadia, give people like an idea of what would be convenient travel wise, like 50 to 100 kilometers from where you are. What would that encompass so people in those areas can kind of, and Steve, put that in the note. If you're in this area, list it off, and then Nadia's email. Where would that be?
Yeah, so when under normal circumstances, anyone who's in the Detroit, Michigan area could easily get to my lab. Like I said earlier, we're right off the Ambassador Bridge. It's literally like get off the bridge, turn left, and you're at my building. But right now, because right now we still need until March 28th, or sorry, February, oh my goodness, until February 28th, people entering Canada need a PCR test to get in the country, but that is changing. It'll be just a rapid test at that point. And we still have the university still has some COVID restrictions around research and who can come to campus. But so anybody who's kind of in, I'd say maybe like a 40-kilometer radius is probably the most convenient. I have had people come from as far away as Toronto to be in our studies. So certainly we'd welcome anybody who wanted to come. But the study is unfunded, so we don't have money to bring people in and pay for travel and things like that. So,
but how cool would it be, to be part of something where research is being done that could help us all as drummers? And what is the ultimate goal that you're hoping to accomplish from all the research?
Just to start giving drummers more context-specific information. So the Drummer Lab's motto is we're trying to do for drummers what sports science has done for athletes.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
And so we're trying to get, take what we know about sports science and ergonomics, and I mean, I can apply it to drumming in theory, but the research is helping us to, say, yes, this is the same, or it's at least similar enough, So, or if we do this or this, then it works, that sort of thing. So to give people actual evidence on which to base their decisions about setting up their drum kit and how they prepare for shows and things like that, as opposed to just borrowing from another field.
I love that. And anybody, I'm going to get to comments one last time in a moment. Anybody that sets something up with Nadia and follows through, Nadia, you get their information, give it to me, and I'll donate a Drum Talk TV shirt to them. We've got like 3 dozen designs. You can pick out a shirt. I'll pay for it. And by the way, if you want to buy a Drum Talk TV shirt, the proceeds go to the American Diabetes Association. So either way, everybody wins. So you keep me posted. Let me know if they mention Drum Talk TV, and I'll give them a shirt. They can pick out a shirt. So
that's amazing. Cool.
Yeah, I'd love to do
Dan.
that. Sure. Let's see.
They also get a T-shirt from us. We get it's either a Drummer Lab T-shirt or a University of Windsor research kinesiology research T-shirt. So you might get 2 T-shirts out of it.
Exactly. And Brian Cooper says no money, just like gigging.
I saw that. And
you got to pay for your own beer when you visit.
That makes me sad.
Yeah, you got to buy your own Labatt. So there you go. Oh, okay. Brian Cooper says, I'd love to participate in your lab, but Windsor's a long way from east of Philadelphia. Following you on Facebook now. Cool. You got a new follower.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is far. And I wish I had the money to bring people in, to get them here. We just don't have that kind of funding, at least not for this project. So
Yeah, that's understandable. Danny, going back to Danny Livesey, I hope I'm still not screwing up your name, says, thanks for the crampy hand locking reply. Asking about hip pain because being in bed is the only time I get it. That's interesting. Doesn't seem related to whether I've gigged, but I do play most days and used to be quite a big double pedal player. I wonder if it could have to do with the firmness or lack of with his mattress or the position he's sleeping in most of the night.
Yeah, it could be a positional thing. Yeah, it's really hard to say, Danny. Yeah, because hip pain, I mean, is it the like on the front of your hip, like hip flexors? Is it your back, like low back, posterior portion of the hip? It's kind of hard to say, but it could be a positional thing. It could be a strain thing through the day that just, happens at night. Yeah, it could be from if you're moving all day and then you stop overnight, you're not really moving anymore. So things tighten up and get stiff. Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. Everybody, thanks so much for chiming in the comments and big part of the show. We really appreciate it. We'll be doing this again next month. You'll see an announcement of that date each month as they come up, before they come up. And Nadia, thank you so much for taking time on a Saturday. Really appreciate it. And
no problem.
Any closing words for everybody?
Ooh, make sure you're warming up.
Make sure you're warming up.
Warm up before you play.
Yeah. Playing drums is very athletic, no matter how simply you play. You are moving around. It's really the thing.
So not just warming up like rudiments, warm up your body like a 5 minutes, just like an athlete would. So
very cool.
We can talk about that next time.
Let's do that. Absolutely.
Yeah, how to warm up properly.
That and stretching, because there's a right way and a wrong way for both.
True.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Nadia. We'll see you all again soon. Thanks for following what we do here on Drum Talk TV. Visit our Facebook page if you're watching this on Facebook, and scroll through the timeline. Visit the videos album if you're watching it on YouTube. There's some playlists there as well. If you're watching this on Instagram, hop over to our Facebook or YouTube and look through our goodies. There's probably a lot of stuff we've done you're not familiar with. Lots of new interviews coming as well. Thanks, everybody.